Seriously, why hasn't there been any new X-Men video games? And I mean real X-Men games, not just Wolverine or Deadpool or a roster filler spot in a mobile game. Games where you can play as all of Charles Xavier's gifted youngsters and take part in the battle for mutant kind. The X-Men were a big influence in the popularity of superheroes in video games, but the last 10 years, they've been nearly extinct. In this video, we'll go through the history of X-Men and figure out what happened to our beloved mutants. Without further ado, let's dive on in. From the 1990s to the mid-2000s, the X-Men dominated superhero media. From its iconic Saturday morning cartoon, to the genre-defining live-action movies, to the coin-guzzling arcade games, the X-Men stood out because they blended epic superhero action with deep social commentary, making every mutant struggle a metaphor for real-world issues. The team consisted of a diverse and complex group of characters that fans could really see themselves in. Stoic and disciplined, you probably gravitate towards Cyclops. Fierce and independent but struggle with intimacy, you're probably a Rogue fan. Short and Canadian, well, I got a character for you. These characters created a dynamic, ever-evolving team that made their interpersonal drama just as exciting as fighting a giant robot. It's like a soap opera where laser eyes, telekinesis, and shape-shifting are just another Tuesday. In the 90s, games like X-Men Arcade and X-Men Children of the Atom brought the characters to life with comic-accurate movesets. Fans flooded to arcades to get a chance to slash up Sentinels as Wolverine, or summon hurricanes as Storm, or give people seizures as Dazzler. Wait, what? Her power is to give people seizures? And she's the good guy? Regardless, these games popularized the X-Men even more and filled the pockets of arcade owners as the revenue for these two games alone was over $100 million. Big companies like Sega, Nintendo, and PlayStation took note of the popularity of the X-Men and began developing games for the IP. In true X-Men fashion, these games kept evolving from one another. The late 90s was dominated by Sega and their side-scrolling beat-em-ups that featured a rotating roster of X-Men and comic-inspired storylines. Nintendo focused on making X-Men portable with Mutant Wars and Reign of the Apocalypse, and PlayStation revamped the X-Men fighting games with Mutant Academy. There was even an X-Men first-person shooter that ran on the Quake engine, which is a 90s fever dream of itself. Fast forward to the early 2000s and the gaming landscape was evolving, and the X-Men followed suit, as role-playing games and cooperative multiplayer were gaining popularity. X-Men Legend and its sequel changed the game, as now we could form our own X-Men teams with our friends and go on epic comic book adventures. This game personally meant a lot to me because it was a precursor to one of my favorite games of all time, Ultimate Alliance. Unfortunately, the X-Men Legend games is where the IP jumped the shark. The following games proceeded to have worse and worse reviews, thus beginning the decline of the X-Men in popular media. I think it was partially due to the success of the live-action movies, making Wolverine the main character of the X-Men. Thus, the games followed suit as the player roster became less X-Men and more X-Man. The other reason being that the games stopped innovating and began chasing trends of other popular games of the time. So safe to say, things got a bit stale as every new X-Men game was just a God of War clone featuring Wolverine. Activision attempted to breathe new life into the IP by shaking up the formula with X-Men Destiny, an action RPG made by Silicon Knights. On paper, this game should have been a hit. Instead of focusing on Wolverine, we focused on 3 brand new X-Men. The player could customize their looks and powers and take part on the ongoing mutant struggle for equality. Unfortunately, X-Men Destiny flopped harder than a fish out of water. Silicon Knights' lawsuit with Epic Games caused them to rush out a buggy mess that looked like it came from 2001, not 2011. The combat was exciting as watching paint dry, and the story felt like it was written by someone who skimmed the X-Men Wikipedia page. Bugs and glitches were everywhere, making you wonder if this game's real mutant power was invisibility, because the polish was nowhere to be found. In the end, critics roasted it, players ignored it, and proved that the X-Men were out the door, as fierce competition was brewing in the horizon. When Disney snagged Marvel for a cool $4 billion in 2009, They didn't just buy a comic book company, they bought a ticket to print money with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Suddenly, superheroes weren't just a comic book staple or a Saturday morning cartoon. They were a billion-dollar box office juggernaut. Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America turned to household names, while the X-Men, once the darlings of the 2000s, were pushed to the sidelines because the Disney shopping spree didn't include the rights to the X-Men or Fantastic Four. As Disney was killing it in the movie industry, they couldn't quite master the gaming industry. The movie tie-in games for the MCU's Big Three was more meh than marvelous. Plus, Disney would start and stop game projects faster than Iron Man would change his suit designs. This left the opening in the superhero gaming market for something truly spectacular. So what did Fox do with this opportunity?
I didn't do fucking shit!
Instead, they made a tie-in mobile game for the movie X-Men Days of Future Past. The game itself is pretty solid, harking back to the old school X-Men game style of the 90s. Featuring a vibrant art style with a well-rounded roster of heroes, headlined by Best Girl, Kitty Pryde, as well as having unique gameplay controls that takes advantage of the mobile gaming platform. However, making a great game for mobile is like putting caviar on a hot dog. You can't fool people into liking it, as the mobile gaming platform was still not being taken seriously in 2014. A weird move for Fox, because I think this game could have done well on consoles, but instead it fell into obscurity, marking the last time we saw the X-Men in their own games. Without Fox pushing for any new games and Disney's lack of the right to the IP, the mutants started to go extinct in gaming. This was felt most prominently in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, as no X-Men appeared on the roster. Not even freaking Wolverine. The irony of this was crazy, as the X-Men introduced the Marvel vs. Capcom concept in the first place with Children of Atom, and now they're not even in the game? The disrespect! In the end, it wasn't the Sentinels or Magneto that killed the X-Men in video games. It was the brutal reality of copyright laws, which is not as exciting. I know. In 2019, the entertainment world changed forever when Disney bought 21st Century Fox, reuniting the X-Men with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The acquisition kicked off with the inclusion of the X-Men in Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order, which dusted off some classic characters for the first time since 2014. But it was just the beginning. As the X-Men regained their popularity thanks to the X-Men 97 cartoon and the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine movie, I'm super excited to what games come out of this. We already know Insomniac is working on a Wolverine solo game, and thanks to some leaks, it looks pretty promising. However, I'm more excited to hear what the plans are for a fully fledged X-Men game slated for 2023. What do you think that game's going to be like, knowing Insomniac's track record? Personally, I hope it's akin to the Guardians of the Galaxy from 2021. Imagine a fun mutant adventure somewhere like the Savage Lands as you lead a ragtag group of X-Men as Cyclops, Wolverine, or Storm. Or maybe something like Midnight Suns from 2022, a turn-based strategy / dating sim that's centered around Xavier's School of the Gifted. Imagine planning a mission with Nightcrawler while setting up magic on a cute date. It's bonkers, but it just might work. The Cosmonaut Variety Hour has a great pitch for an X-Men RPG similar to like Persona, and that just sounded awesome to me, and I highly recommend y'all check out the video. As hopeful I am for the future of X-Men games, I am a tad skeptical. The rise of the live service games that has been a plague on the industry. It's baffling that games of this genre have awful track records for both commercially and critically, yet they still get made. This format is prominent with team-oriented hero games like the Avengers, Arkham Knights, and the Suicide Squad. I'm generally terrified that the X-Men will fall victim to the same corporate greed as those games. But the future is unwritten and anything is possible. As fans, we should speak with our wallets and demand a game that is true to our beloved characters and fun to play, and not settle for garbage. You deserve better, I deserve better, and the X-Men for sure deserve better. So now you know why the X-Men have been missing in video games for quite some time. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I had a blast researching this topic, and it rekindled my love for the X-Men. There's so many new things I learned about the X-Men lore, including a cancelled X-Woman game, which I'm interested in making a video about. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments what your favorite X-Men game was and what you hope to see in the future. Until next time, fair winds and safe travels.